Usually when we think about language, there's this expectation of, like, straightforward utility.
Right, yeah, like a tool.
Exactly, like a hammer.
Yeah.
You need to communicate a thought, you just grab a word, you hit the nail on the head, and the other person understands.
Sure.
You say apple, the other person pictures an apple. Transaction complete.
Yeah, I mean, we treat language as just a simple delivery mechanism for data. Nouns, verbs, syntax.
Right.
It's entirely functional, and, that functional view is very comforting. We really like to believe that reality is exactly what we can describe with our straightforward, everyday vocabulary.
Oh, absolutely. We assume the map is the territory.
We do, yeah.
But then you step into the world of ancient texts, specifically the study of parables, and suddenly that simple hammer is just completely useless.
Oh, yeah. It just falls apart.
It really does. You realize you aren't looking at a tool anymore.
Yeah.
We're looking at a linguistic landscape that is, well, honestly, it's mind-bending.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah. I mean, imagine a language so powerful, so deeply encoded, that without it, the future and the ultimate nature of reality were being completely hidden from view.
Which is just, it's wild to think about. We are moving from language as a descriptive tool to language as the very fabric of reality itself.
Right.
We are talking about parables not as like quaint little moral bedtime stories, but as the literal coding of a hidden, unseen world. And it's all expressed through the physical things we can actually see and touch.
And that is exactly the journey we are taking today in this deep dive.
I'm so excited for this one.
Me too. We are looking at this incredibly dense, fascinating lecture transcript that basically zeroes in on the master key of all parables.
The cipher that unlocks everything else.
Exactly. The seed. And what is so compelling here is how this framework connects ancient biblical metaphors, specifically the famous mustard seed to human psychology.
Yeah, and to linguistics.
Right, the deep roots of linguistics, and even to the very modern idea of how our internal thoughts physically shape our external reality.
It's amazing. It connects theology, the biology of growth, and, the cognitive frameworks we use every single day to process the world.
So for everyone listening, whether you are insanely curious about ancient philosophical texts, or you're fascinated by the psychology of mindset, or, maybe you're just looking for a shortcut to some profound wisdom.
Right. Who isn't?
Exactly. Well, this is going to change how you look at the words you consume and the thoughts you allow to take root in your mind.
Because the foundational claim here is massive.
It really is.
It argues unequivocally that the ultimate language of the divine is parables. Full stop.
Full stop.
Yeah. Without understanding the mechanism of the parable, you cannot understand history, and you certainly cannot understand any prophecies of the future.
Wow.
The literal history is just the surface. The parable is the actual engine driving the car.
Okay, but the absolute starting point for all of this is the parable of the mustard seed from Matthew 13.
Yes, the mustard seed.
But let me push back on that immediately, because I think that's a frustrating concept for a lot of people.
Sure.
Like, if there is some ultimate divine truth, why encode it? Why all the riddles?
That's a fair question.
Right. Why not just hand us the straightforward instruction manual? I mean, if the goal is for people to understand reality, speaking in parables seems like you're intentionally obfuscating the point.
And that is the natural modern reaction, right? We want the executive summary. We want the bullet points.
Exactly. Just give me the takeaways.
But think about the nature of a truly profound truth. If I hand you a complex manual on quantum physics, but you haven't even learned basic arithmetic, that straightforward manual is useless to you.
That makes sense, yeah.
In fact, it might be actively confusing or even destructive. So the parable acts as a compression algorithm.
A compression algorithm. I love
Yeah.
that.
It takes an infinite, incomprehensible spiritual reality and compresses it into a familiar, everyday object. Like a seed.
Like a ZIP file on a computer.
Precisely like a ZIP file.
Because think about how data works. You have this massive uncompressed folder, right? Gigabytes of information, 4K video, complex software code.
Right, it's huge.
And you can't just email that. The bandwidth just isn't there.
No, it would crash.
So you compress it down into a tiny little ZIP file, and it looks like one single simple icon on your desktop.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
So the mustard seed is essentially the spiritual ZIP file. It's considered the smallest of all seeds in the text, yet it contains the massive, uncompressed data of an entire tree, an entire ecosystem.
And the narrative progression laid out for this mustard seed is very specific in the source.
Walk us through that.
So the kingdom of heaven is compared to this microscopic seed being planted, but, it doesn't instantly materialize into a towering tree.
Right, there's a process.
Exactly. There is a sequence. It grows into a vegetable or an herb first, a tender shoot. Then, from that stage, it undergoes this massive biological transformation into a tree. And finally, the climax of the entire process is that the birds of the air come down and rest in its branches.
Seed, herb, tree, birds.
Seed, herb, tree, birds. Exactly.
And I think the emphasis here is that the kingdom of heaven isn't a geographical place.
Oh, definitely not.
Because I think the default cultural image is, clouds, pearly gates, a physical location you travel to after you die.
Right, like a destination.
Yeah. But this framework completely dismantles that. It argues the kingdom of heaven is a biological and spiritual process of growth.
It is a sequence of maturation, and the text uses a brilliant illustrative memory to cement this idea of interlocking symbolism.
Oh, the painting story. I love this part.
Yeah, it's so good. The speaker recalls learning traditional Chinese painting as a child, specifically using a soldering iron to burn images into wooden cabinets.
Wow, that's intense for a kid.
Right, and they were taught to paint 3 specific motifs: a pine tree, a crane, and the sun.
Which is a very classic combination in Eastern art.
Very classic. And as a kid, the speaker just painted them because, well, those were the rules. But later, the deeper symbolism unlocked for them.
Oh, so?
Well, the pine tree is considered the king of trees, retaining its green needles through the dead of winter. So it's a symbol of resilience and longevity.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the crane is the immortal bird, representing spiritual elevation.
Right.
But the crucial insight is that both the towering tree and the soaring bird are absolutely dependent on the third element.
The sun.
The sun. Without the sun, there is no photosynthesis, there is no warmth, there is no life.
So the artistic symbolism perfectly maps onto how the unseen kingdom of heaven is described.
Exactly. The tree and the birds are the visible manifestations of an invisible, life-giving force.
Okay, so this transitions us from, artistic symbolism straight into what can only be described as a cosmic algorithm.
Yeah, it's very systematic.
Because the phrasing used in the text is literal programming. The seed contains all the hidden programming of what it will eventually become, even before a single root has sprouted.
It's all there in the code.
Right. The mustard seed is the absolute starting point of all understanding because it holds the entirety of the future within its shell.
And, philosophers have argued for millennia about the fundamental root of the universe, right?
Sure. Is it water? Is it fire?
Exactly. Is it atomic particles? But this paradigm argues the root of all things is the seed.
The seed.
A horse comes from a horse seed. An apple comes from an apple seed. It's the law of origin.
So if you want to understand a vast, complex system, whether it's a forest, a society, or the human mind, you don't start by looking at the finished product.
No, not at all.
You start by looking at the most concentrated point of origin, the seed.
Right.
Okay, but up until now, a listener might be thinking, great, a seed grows into a tree. I took 4th grade biology.
Right. What's the big deal?
Yeah, how does this transition from basic botany to reshaping our reality? And this brings us to the most critical decoding, the hinge upon which this entire philosophy swings.
This is at the core of it all.
Right. The framework moves to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4, to explicitly break the metaphor open. And it says, the seed is the word of God.
Yes.
And the literal character used in the Chinese translation here is Tao, the word, the way, the fundamental operating system of the universe.
Which is a huge connection to make. Because if the seed is the Tao, the word, then the act of sowing, of planting, is the act of speaking, teaching, or communicating a concept.
Spreading the word.
Exactly. We see the seed referred to in other ancient parables as grain, wheat, or food. It all represents the transmission of a concept from one mind to another.
So if the seed is an idea, a word, a concept, where is it being planted?
Yeah.
Because we aren't exactly throwing dictionaries into the dirt,
No, we definitely aren't. And this is where we look at a profound linguistic connection baked right into the Chinese language.
I found this absolutely fascinating.
It really is. The seed is planted in the field. But in this context, the field is the human mind, the human heart.
Right. The phrase used is Xintian, which translates to heart field, or Xin Day, meaning heartland.
Yes, heart field.
I love that. The language itself conceptualizes human consciousness as an agricultural space.
It's not just a computer processing data.
No, it is living soil meant to grow things.
And it shifts the entire dynamic of how we view our own minds. In this framework, the divine is the farmer, the cultivator, he is broadcasting the seed.
Throwing it out there.
Right. But the dirt is neutral. The condition of the soil, your heart field, is the sole determining factor in whether that seed of truth will rot or whether it will grow into the herb and eventually the tree.
Because dirt doesn't judge.
It really doesn't.
If you plant a tomato seed, you get a tomato.
Yeah.
If you plant poison oak, the dirt doesn't say, whoa, hold on, this is toxic, I refuse to grow this.
Right, doesn't have a moral compass.
It just allocates its nutrients to whatever you put in it. And I feel like this brings this ancient mysticism crashing right into modern practical psychology.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the law of cause and effect. Think about Murphy's Law.
Right, Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
Exactly. But let's look at the mechanism behind Murphy's Law. It's not just a pessimistic joke. It's actually a neurological reality.
How so?
Well, if you constantly obsess over a negative outcome, like if you wake up every day terrified you're going to fail a big presentation at work, what are you doing?
You're worrying.
You are taking a word, a concept, a fear, and you are planting it as a seed deeply into your heart field.
Wow, right.
And because it's a seed in fertile soil, it follows the biological law of growth. It commands your reticular activating system.
So you start noticing evidence of failure everywhere.
Exactly. You get anxious, your sleep suffers, your performance actually drops. You literally cultivate the very reality you fear.
The unseen thought manifests in the seen reality. You are actively watering a negative seed.
Yes, and this connects beautifully to the Buddhist concept. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form.
That's a famous one.
Right, Seiji Shikong. Our modern interpretation of emptiness is often just nothingness.
Like a void.
Yeah, but in this context, emptiness refers to the unseen world, the internal word, the hidden thoughts, the invisible code.
Okay.
And form is the physical world. So the unseen code actually generates the visible hardware.
That is wild.
Your external life is simply the harvested crop of the internal seeds you've been planting for years.
Man, that makes you want to stop and aggressively audit your own internal monologue.
It really does.
Because every podcast you listen to, every doom-scrolling session on social media, every moment of gratitude, every complaint, these aren't just like fleeting moments.
Oh, they're not.
They are literal seeds being dropped into the heartland. And if you understand the parable, you understand the inevitable consequence.
Which is?
That whatever you introduce to the mind repeatedly will eventually grow into a towering structure in your life.
The mind is a neutral incubator. It will bring to fruition whatever you feed it.
And on one hand, that sounds incredibly empowering. Guard your mind, plant good seeds, grow a beautiful life.
Sure, it sounds very positive.
But there is a massive, honestly terrifying twist introduced here in the text.
There is.
It isn't just a matter of deciding to plant good seeds. The framework states that there are two completely different types of seeds constantly being sown into the human heart field.
By competing forces.
Right. Two distinct encodings. There is the seed of truth and the seed of deception.
God's seed versus the devil's seed.
But the terrifying part is the camouflage. Because the deception doesn't look like a lie.
No, of course not.
Like if the devil came up and offered you a seed labeled pure evil will ruin your life, nobody would plant it.
Obviously not.
The masquerade is the threat. The false seed uses the exact same vocabulary. The deceiver quotes the exact same ancient scriptures, wears the same religious robes, and even preaches the exact same parables about seeds and trees.
The great deception relies entirely on mimicking the farmer.
Mimicking the farmer, wow.
Yeah, because if both the cultivator and the deceiver are wearing the same clothes, standing in the same field, and tossing out seeds that look visually identical to the naked eye.
The human mind is highly vulnerable.
Incredibly vulnerable.
But I have to interject here, because if I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah.
If the fake seed and the real seed are both quoting the exact same Bible verse, using the exact same words, how is it mathematically possible to tell them apart?
It's a great question.
It feels like a rigged game.
It would be if we were only judging by surface appearance. But there is a very specific, almost scientific litmus test provided, drawing from the concepts in 1 Peter chapter 1.
Okay, lay it on me.
It's the contrast between the perishable seed and the imperishable seed.
Perishable versus imperishable.
Right. The test isn't how the seed looks when it's planted. The test is what happens to its vitality over time.
Explain the mechanics of a perishable idea. What does that actually look like?
So a perishable seed is an idea or a teaching that lacks internal dynamic life. It's a literal surface-level interpretation of reality.
Okay, so it's shallow.
Shallow, yeah. And when you first hear it, it might actually sound deeply profound or comforting. It might make you feel righteous or secure.
Like you have all the answers.
Exactly. But when you plant it in your mind, it doesn't initiate a process of growth. It just sits there.
It doesn't sprout.
No. And over time, like any organic matter without a life force, it begins to rot.
Oh, wow.
It makes your mind rigid, stagnant, and ultimately cynical. You don't transform from the seed to the herb to the tree.
You just become a highly defended patch of dirt with a rotting pebble inside it.
That is a very visceral way to put it, but yes.
I mean, think about dogmatic ideologies, whether religious, political, or even like corporate culture.
Oh, corporate culture is a great example.
Right. You get handed this rule book, this seed, and at first you feel great because you have all the answers.
You know exactly what to do.
But 10 years later, you haven't grown in your empathy, your understanding of the world hasn't expanded. You're just angrily defending the same static plot of dirt.
Yes. The soil of your mind has gone completely sour.
That is the perfect description of the perishable seed taking its toll.
And the imperishable seed, however, the true word, is defined as living and active.
Living and active.
Its defining characteristic is kinetic energy. When you plant a true concept in your mind, it operates as a catalyst.
It breaks things open.
It breaks down old paradigms, it pushes roots deep into your subconscious, and forces a structural expansion of how you perceive reality. It is dynamic.
To really illustrate the danger of walking around with a head full of perishable seeds, we have to look at one of the most compelling narratives from the Gospel of John, chapter 3.
Ah, yes, Nicodemus.
The story of Nicodemus. And the way this interaction is framed in the text is just incredibly relatable. Nicodemus isn't some cartoon villain.
No, not at all.
He is the ultimate Ivy League elite of his day.
He really is. He is a Pharisee, a teacher of the law. He sits at the absolute pinnacle of the religious, academic, and social hierarchy.
Right, he's a very big deal.
His entire identity, his status, his wealth, it's all built on his mastery of the literal text.
He has literally memorized the dictionary of the divine. He knows every rule, every historical footnote.
But then he looks at Jesus.
Right, this uncredentialed, supposedly uneducated carpenter from a backwater town.
And he sees something happening that his rigid framework cannot explain. There is a dynamic life force there that Nicodemus knows he lacks.
You can feel
He
it.
can feel it. But because of his ego, because he is, a tenured professor and Jesus is basically a street mechanic, he is terrified of being seen asking for help.
So what does he do? He sneaks through the back alleys at night under the cover of darkness just to get a private audience.
Which is just, the irony is staggering.
It is.
The man who is culturally recognized as the light of the community is literally stumbling through the dark because he is intellectually and spiritually blind.
It's so poetic.
Yeah.
And he gets there, probably expecting a high-level philosophical debate or, maybe wanting to learn the secret technique behind the miracles.
Sure, he wants the insider info.
But Jesus completely bypasses the intellectual sparring. He looks at this man who's devoted his entire life to studying the scriptures and basically says, you are completely blind. You can't see the kingdom of heaven. You have to start over. You must be born again.
And we have to analyze that statement strictly through the lens of the seed parable.
Right.
Nicodemus is a farmer whose heart field is absolutely packed to the brim with seeds. But they are all perishable.
They're all dead letters.
They are literalistic, dogmatic dead letters. He knows the text backward and forward, but he is functionally blind to the reality it points to.
He cannot see the tree because he has never understood the true nature of the seed.
Exactly. And when people hear born again, there is a lot of modern cultural baggage attached to that phrase.
That's a ton of baggage. It sounds like joining a cult or having a highly emotional breakdown.
Right. Even Nicodemus was confused, asking the absurd question of whether a grown man has to crawl back into his mother's womb.
Which is pretty funny when you think about it. But translate rebirth into the language of, like, cognitive science or psychology.
Yeah.
What is actually being demanded here?
It is demanding a violent paradigm shift, a complete cognitive reset.
A reset.
It is the clearing of the heart field. Jesus is telling Nicodemus that his current mental models are entirely incompatible with reality.
Wow.
All those old, rotting, perishable seeds of literalism have to be violently uprooted. The soil has to be turned over.
It's a demolition project.
It really is. Only then can the true imperishable seed be planted. The framework states it plainly. Without that catastrophic internal reset, you can look right at the ultimate truth of the universe and see nothing but an empty field.
That is a staggering thought. You can have all the education in the world, multiple PhDs, memorize every ancient philosophy, and still be fundamentally blind to reality.
Because your operating system is built on perishable code.
Man, which naturally forces the question.
Yeah.
What is the actual mechanism of this transformation? How does this true seed cause a cognitive rebirth?
This takes us into a deeply philosophical, almost mathematical section of the source material.
Yeah, let's get into the equations.
It lays out a series of theological equations connecting disparate parts of the text, John 17, 1 John 5, John 4, to prove how spiritual growth operates.
Okay, let's unpack the logic here, step by step.
First equation. The word equals truth, as in your word is truth.
Okay, word equals truth. Tracking with you.
Second equation. The truth equals the spirit.
So if word equals truth and truth equals spirit.
Therefore, through the transitive property, the word equals the spirit.
Word equals spirit.
Got it. But it adds a final, crucial variable. The word is also repeatedly described as water.
Specifically, a living water that quenches a profound internal thirst.
Right. Now, if we overlay these equations onto our biology of the seed, the brilliance of the metaphor locks into place.
Okay, walk me through that.
A seed, no matter how powerful its internal programming is, cannot grow in dry, dead dirt.
It just sits there.
It is dormant. It requires water to penetrate its shell and activate the code inside.
Okay, I see where this is going.
In this ecosystem, the word is doing double duty. It acts as the seed itself, but it also acts as the water, the spirit that nourishes the soil.
So I want to make sure I grasp this, because the idea that the word waters the word sounds like a riddle.
It does sound like a riddle.
Are we saying that a profound truth carries its own momentum? Like when you finally understand a deep concept, it creates a cascade effect in your brain that makes you hungrier for more truth.
That's a great way to look at it. Think about the nature of a spirit or breath or wind. It is an invisible dynamic force that causes movement.
Right, it's not static.
A static fact, like a piece of trivia, it doesn't move you. But a profound truth is kinetic. When you encounter a true paradigm shift, it feels like a physical sensation.
Oh, for sure. It's like a light bulb turning on, but in your whole body.
Exactly. It quenches a cognitive dissonance you didn't even realize you were suffering from. It hydrates the mind.
Hydrates the mind.
This is why the text insists you must be reborn of water and the spirit. It's not a checklist of 2 different magical rituals.
No.
It's describing the total immersion of the rigid mind in the dynamic, fluid, life-giving force of the true word.
Okay, to ground this in physical reality, the source material brings up an anecdote that is, honestly, incredibly provocative.
It's a very bold claim.
It really is. It argues that this internal, unseen rebirth of the mind, this hydration of the heart field, eventually alters your physical, biological body, specifically your face.
Bold, yes, but perfectly consistent with the logic of cause and effect they've established. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form.
The unseen shapes the seen.
Exactly.
So the argument is that you can track the state of a person's heart field by watching how they age into their 50s and 60s.
Right.
The claim is that some people become objectively uglier, harsher, and more physically repulsive as they age.
And why is that?
Well, according to the text, it's because their facial structure, their microexpressions, their baseline muscle tension is reflecting a rotting, negative internal environment.
It's manifesting on their face.
Decades of planting perishable seeds, chronic worry, deep-seated anger, bitter cynicism, rigid dogmatism have literally etched themselves into the physical hardware of their face.
Cortisol has ravaged their system.
Yes, exactly.
Conversely, the text observes that individuals who have cultivated a healthy mind, those who have allowed the true living seed to establish a deep root system, they grow more beautiful.
Or at least more radiant and comfortable to look at as they age.
Right. The peace, vitality, and flexibility of their internal heartland manifest physically. It's not about, like, conventional cosmetic beauty.
Right. It's not about symmetrical features.
No, it's about the emanation of life versus the emanation of decay.
And this physiological connection is backed up by one of the most mind-blowing linguistic discoveries in the entire deep dive.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
We look again at the Chinese language. So the character for covenant or testament, as in the Old and New Testament, the foundational word is yu.
You.
Right. And the word for medicine is yao.
And the visual composition of these characters is where the real revelation lies.
They share the exact same root. The word for medicine, yao, is literally just the word for covenant, with the radical symbol for grass or herb placed directly on top of it.
It's incredible. It encodes the entire theological premise of the mustard seed parable into the typography of the language itself.
The covenant, the word, when it grows into an herb, becomes medicine.
I could spend an hour just thinking about that one connection.
Same here.
Yeah.
The framework argues that spiritual ignorance, like the inability to understand parables, isn't just a lack of education.
Yeah.
It is a literal sickness. The human operating system is infected. The world is mad. And the seed that grows into the herb, is the ultimate targeted medicine.
The text utilizes a profound concept from Chinese traditional medicine and philosophy here, curing the Jingqi Shen.
Tell me about that.
Well, this translates roughly to vital essence, energy, and spirit. These are the three treasures of life.
Okay.
When a person is operating on perishable seeds, when they are dogmatic, fearful, and blind to reality, their vital essence is drained, their energy, their ki is blocked or chaotic, and their spirit is dimmed.
So the mind is quite literally killing the body.
Yes. The cognitive dissonance drains your battery.
It just depletes you.
Exactly. The medicine of the true word is designed to align and restore Jing, Qi, and Shen.
Okay.
This perfectly illustrates the transition described in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6, where it states the transition is from the letter that kills to the spirit that gives life.
Let's hover on that phrase because it sounds incredibly dramatic. The letter that kills. How does a letter, like a piece of text, a rule, actively kill a person?
Well, in this context, the letter represents the ultimate perishable seed.
Ah, okay.
It is the act of reading a text, any text, but especially sacred texts, purely for its literal, surface-level historical meaning.
Missing the point entirely.
Right, while remaining entirely blind to the hidden parable, the essence underneath.
Okay.
The framework argues that clinging to the literal written code without grasping the dynamic spirit is fatal to the heart field. It creates a brittle, unyielding mind.
Think of Nicodemus again.
Exactly. His obsession with the letter made him incapable of recognizing the divine when it was standing right in front of him.
Dogma kills curiosity.
It kills curiosity, it kills empathy, it kills spiritual evolution. The spirit, on the other hand, is the inner essence. It is the true meaning that acts as the medicine, dissolving the rigidity and bringing vitality back to the mind.
This conflict brings us to a massive thematic collision point based on the writings in Romans 7 and Romans 2.
Yes, a very important collision.
The collision between the old way of the written code and the new way of the spirit. And the analogy used to describe this conflict is just brilliant because it is so universally recognizable.
The solid gold analogy.
Right, the difference between something that is solid gold and something that is merely gold-plated.
It is a devastating critique of superficiality, whether we're talking about religion, philosophy, or just everyday life.
So the text explores what it means to be a true Jew in the context of Romans, arguing that outward appearances and historical lineage are entirely meaningless if the internal reality is vacant.
Right.
Like having the right bloodline, wearing the culturally approved religious garments, performing all the correct physical rituals in front of an audience, quoting the right book.
It's all just performance.
Exactly. If you do not possess the internal dynamic essence of the word, you are just gold-plated.
You have the shine of the genuine article, but millimeters below the surface, it is just cheap, rigid iron.
Now, how do you test if something is solid gold or just
Yeah.
gold-plated? You can't just look at it.
No. Visually, they might be identical.
Right. You can't just ask it. You have to subject it to the fire test.
You have to apply intense heat.
Right. When the fire of crisis, trauma, or intense pressure is applied, what happens?
The gold plating melts.
Exactly. Gold-plated metal bubbles. The thin veneer of gold melts away, revealing the cheap, corruptible metal underneath. It just falls apart.
But solid gold.
Solid gold doesn't burn. Under intense heat, it actually becomes softer, purer, and more refined.
In this framework, the true word possesses what is called the inner essence, or true meaning, Jingyi.
Jingyu, okay.
The fake word, the perishable seed, relies entirely on the literal written code, Ziju.
So essence versus code.
Exactly. When a person whose entire worldview is built on rote memorization and literal rules, the gold plating experiences a genuine crisis of faith or a tragedy in life, their rigid framework collapses.
It can't handle the heat.
It cannot withstand the heat of actual human suffering.
Wow.
But a person who has internalized the essence, the spirit of the word, finds that their understanding sustains them through the fire.
The implication here is really severe, though.
It is.
Repeating the literal text, Doing all the right rituals without understanding the hidden parable, it isn't just an innocent mistake.
No, it's not a harmless phase.
It isn't just a participation trophy. According to this paradigm, it is wearing a costume. It is actively planting the devil's perishable seed while deluding yourself into thinking you are the farmer.
You're fooling yourself.
You are. It is projecting an illusion of life that inevitably results in the death of the heart field.
Because grasping the true seed isn't about memorizing syntax or winning a theological debate.
No.
It is about ingesting a spiritual medicine that fundamentally alters your DNA.
It forces a brutal self-audit, doesn't it?
It really does. Are you engaged with the living essence of truth, or are you just reciting a culturally approved script?
When the pressure is on, are you solid gold, or are you just plated for show?
Exactly.
And I want to turn that exact question directly to you, the listener, because you do not need to be a theologian or an ancient historian to apply this fire test to your own life.
Absolutely not. It applies to everything.
Look at the structures you've built. Think about your career, your personal philosophy, the way you parent, your relationships. Are you operating on gold-plated knowledge?
Are you just going through the motions?
Right. Are you just repeating the literal texts of your industry, parroting the buzzwords, going through the daily routine without any real dynamic understanding of why you are doing it?
It's a tough question to ask yourself.
It is. When a crisis hits your life, does your philosophy sustain you, or does it melt away and leave you cynical and bitter?
Have you grasped the inner essence that promotes actual, painful, beautiful growth?
What kind of seeds are you allowing into your heartland today? Are they perishable seeds of rote routine and anxiety, or imperishable seeds of dynamic, expanding truth?
It is the stark difference between lifelong stagnation and genuine radical transformation.
Okay, let's pull all of these threads together. This has been a massive journey.
A really deep dive.
We started by looking at a tiny, seemingly insignificant mustard seed. We stripped away the agricultural surface and discovered that this seed is the Word.
A highly compressed, divine algorithm containing the entire blueprint of reality.
And we learned that this algorithm must be planted in the specific environment of the heart field, the human mind, which acts as a neutral incubator for whatever reality we choose to cultivate.
And we saw that this seed requires hydration. It must be watered with the dynamic spirit.
Right, acting as a profound internal medicine, the herb, to cure our blindness.
The blindness so pervasive that it traps even the most highly educated among us, the Nicodemuses of the world.
Until we submit to a total cognitive reset, a rebirth.
And we learned the vital necessity of the fire test. We must aggressively distinguish solid gold, inner essence, from the gold-plated dead letter of the literal written code.
It isn't just a philosophy. It is a biological and spiritual roadmap. The seed growing into the herb transforming into the tree, and finally, the birds coming to rest in the branches.
The ancient texts present this as the literal step-by-step sequence for cultivating a mind capable of interacting with the divine.
It's the process of internal cultivation that eventually, inevitably reshapes the external physical world.
It's beautiful, really.
Which brings us to a final, lingering thought. A little something for you to ponder on your own as you step away from this deep dive. Think about the very end of that progression. The climax of the parable we discussed at the absolute beginning.
The birds.
The seed is planted.
Yeah.
It fights through the dirt. It grows into a vegetable. It expands into a massive, deeply rooted tree. And then the birds of the air come down from the sky to rest in its branches.
Right.
If the seed is the initial concept of truth, and the tree is your fully transformed, resilient, solid gold mine, what are the birds?
That's a profound question.
Could it be that only when your mind is truly cultivated, only when you have weathered the fire and grown a strong, expansive, deeply rooted network of understanding within your heart field, that finally becomes a safe sanctuary?
A landing pad.
A landing pad, yeah. A place where higher external truths, profound inspirations, and maybe even the divine itself can finally come down from the sky and make a home within you.
A vast sanctuary, grown entirely from a single, invisible, imperishable seed.
We'll leave you with that. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. Guard your mind, be ruthless about what you plant today, and we will catch you on the next one.